Check 1 2, check 1 2 1 2, check.
Good morning. Good morning. What? Who? Oh, your camera broke? Okay. Good morning. These are not on. Good morning. Good morning.
This one's the Coach Center one.
Good morning. You could welcome everybody too. Do you want to just do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Omidakiapi, Yuha Shante Washten Ape Chuza Palo. I'm Ryman LeBeau. I'm the chairman for the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, and I'm happy to be here with you all. I welcome you all to this event, this important foster care, kinship, information sharing session. Welcome our guests from Pierre, from the state. We welcome our relatives here today, our elders, our moms, our aunties, grandmas. I think we have one grandpa here. That's Bob. So yeah, welcome all the uncles as well, and those that are foster care parents already, those that are kinship in that role already. You know, you are the heroes. You are these children's all they have, and you come to their rescue. So I just want to say thank you for that and the work you're already doing. It's very important, and children are sacred in our culture, in our language. Wakanyaja, that means sacred being. So that is the teaching that we have to live by as Lakota people. And as chairman, we want to take on this responsibility that for a long time, we have had the state doing for us. And we've had our initial meetings with Secretary Altoff just the other day, and it went very well. So we're going to continue on this track in taking back the child protection services and for the tribe to manage and run these services ourselves. Because this is our responsibility as Lakota people. This is our responsibility as parents, as grandparents. And so yeah, that's what I want to share, and I want to welcome you all. And Mr. Vice Chairman Bob Walters, he's going to do a prayer song, and then we're going to ask Secretary.
In-laws may not have a secure attachment, so how do you navigate that as a foster family? We encourage families to let the children know that they're there for them, that they have a good support system. And then we have a whole section on parenting and racially and culturally diverse families. We talk about being open to talking about racism. I share some experiences that I've had prior for those who have never experienced racism in their daily life. We show some videos from the children's perspectives about these types of things. We encourage some self-reflection, being open to other person's views, and encourage interacting with people from the child's racial background to help that child keep the connection to their culture and continue to be proud of who they are. In session 3, that's more of a science-based session where we cover the impact of trauma on the child's developing brain. We talk about how those reactions to trauma can be different for each child, and how the child you may have in your home might be disassociating and not actually interacting with you, and how to navigate that. And then we talk about how foster parents can help manage the impacts of trauma by co-regulating their emotions to those with the child. And then session 4 is a really deep session, because that talks about trauma and sex abuse. It's a really challenging topic. I just did this training on Sunday. I talked about generational trauma and historical trauma. I mentioned that the forced boarding schools and the atrocities that happen to our Native relatives has consequences to this day. A lot of the children in foster care could be from unintended consequences of that boarding school era and taking children from healthy families away from them and forcing that assimilation onto them. Historical and generational trauma affects entire communities, so we stress the importance of keeping those ties to the culture. I did say something about, so I've talked to people who have said we don't participate in ceremonies, we're not involved in the culture like that. Well, that's true, maybe you don't do that. Maybe they don't participate in some of the sacred ceremonies, but I promise you every child that's come from a Native family or Native community has been to a powwow. They've gone to some kind of a fair. Those are just some normal things that happen in their life that ties into their community. My daughter didn't grow up on the reservation because we were in Rapid City when she was growing up, but when we would come home for funerals, sadly, or we'd come back for Thanksgiving or just to visit, she told me just recently when she came back, she said, I know I didn't grow up here, but I really feel connected to this reservation. I know that this is my home. So just understand that children, wherever they grew up, have that tie to their community. So we want to really stress to the families that we're working with to do whatever they can to make sure that they keep that connection. So then we recommend that the family themselves start attending community events like this one here. Foster parents can come in and, we did a traditional opening ceremony. We have the tribal chairman here. We did the blessing with the sage. Those are all cultural things that are important to Native children, and so it'd be good for foster families to come and participate in things like this to create an awareness for them. So we encourage them to do those sorts of things as well. And we're now up to slide 14.
Thank you, Marlis, for sharing the content of that training. It was very valuable to hear your insights, so thank you. So really, we're here today to, say we need we need people to say, I'm interested in supporting, children. And so we're hoping that today that we can have you connect with some of our staff to say, yes, I'm interested in being a foster family. And we would like you to connect with our people in the back, and I'm going to have people introduce themselves here in just a minute. But before we do those introductions, I just wanted to pause and see if there were any questions about the licensure process before we do introductions. Are there any questions about licensure? Matt.
I think it's a fair assumption that those who generously given up their time today and heard our ask for help have a desire to do this. So if we think about it as a presumption that they want to, could you share a little bit for all of us to sort of what are some of the common things where people go into the training and decide that's not for me? What are some of the things in that exploration process or that discernment process of the household? Could we share a little bit about that way people decide this isn't for them?
Marlis, do you have something in mind?
There's only been one, I haven't been on the staff very long, but there's only been one time that somebody said that maybe that this wasn't for them, and it was when we were talking about the potential for false allegations being made against the family. It is so rare that happens, but that was something that just freaked them out so much. But we also, in the training, talk about how to protect yourself from that sort of thing, how to, we stress keeping a journal, tracking everyday things specific to the child, what behavioral issues are happening. Maybe there's some things that changed or some trauma got triggered, or maybe mom and dad said they want them to come home. So, there could be things behind that, but understanding that each allegation would get investigated thoroughly. It is just so rare that happens, but that's the only time. Usually the families are gracious and really have, coming from a good place when they come through the training, and they learn a lot about all the different kinds of behaviors they may experience, because every child's situation is different, and they've ended ready to bring children into their home, and I haven't had anybody other than that one person who just expressed concern. I don't think they said they were just not going to do it, that it wasn't for them, but at least in my experience, I haven't had anybody say that yet.
And I think from my experience, the training, everybody just loves the training and they just benefit from it. But I also think sometimes the families, when they're coming to the table, they want to become foster parents. Some of them still have little kids themselves. They're busy. They have a lot going on, and maybe through the training, kind of get a better understanding of, okay, what this is going to be. And they may decide at that point, and we do have families do this, that at that point their lives are just too busy, but they come back around a few years later, like my kids are older, I'm ready to do this now. The seed's been planted, and so I think that's another thing that we see is just sometimes families feel right now, but in the future it will be for me, so. Yeah.
I didn't mention this, but the very final session that we do is that panel presentation, and we have foster parents who have been doing this for 20 years or so. And the participants have an opportunity to ask them questions about what their experience has been like. And what's it like? It starts off with like, what's a day in the life of a foster parent? And they go through the experiences that they've had and share that. And it's simple things like, what should you have in the house when children come in? And so you want to make sure you have ramen noodles or juice boxes or hot Cheetos or diapers or a plate, a pack and play. Those little things that you think about that you wouldn't maybe necessarily think about. And when I was taking in the little ones, I had no idea. So I didn't even know what kind of formula the baby took or how. And they had some behavioral issues, and so had to working through those. So we're sharing those experiences that we've had as people who have taken children in, and then continue on with it. Took 2 weeks to get the kids on a schedule. Once they were on a schedule, life was great. But those first 2 weeks were hard, and just understanding that you're going to be in for some challenging times. But it was probably, it was the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. And so the parents are saying the same thing. There's challenges, it can be hard, but it's really rewarding and it's worth it. And we do need good foster families, especially for the Native children in foster care.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We have, in terms of foster families, we have a little over 900 resources, and I don't know off the top of my head for each county. We can, but we do have that. And in terms of those are a combination of licensed kinship resources and the foster adopt. So I need some when you say long-term. You say family restoration. So there must be a short-term, what's happening with the parents. How many families have been restored, say, in the past? Oh, and that is really, I think you're getting at a question that maybe child placement can answer. Sarah, is that for reunification? Right, so that's a reunification question, and I don't have that data, but that Child Protection Services will have that.
Here's the slide that has the.
One thing that we do in the department anyway, important to keep in mind, licensure is just really a pathway to make sure this is a safe home. This is a situation where there's individuals that have had some understanding of what is it going to take with the child they receive into their home. Placement's very different, and you will have a licensing specialist should you choose to get licensing. They will help you work so that, to your point, I can only do short-term stays. My situation is such that, I'm thrilled to have help for a week or two on emergency situations. Maybe some people need a weekend off. I'm more than happy to help kids over a weekend to help other families. There's a lot of fostering situations and kinship situations that will create, through licensure, make themselves available that way. And then there are others that we will stay with this child for as long as mom and dad need until they're ready to reunify. And some placements can go on for long periods of time, years. So the difference is in licensure, there's no distinction. You don't do a short-term licensure and a long-term licensure. You're licensed or you're not. And then you work on a relational level with your licensing specialist to say, what are my preferences? Does that help clarify a little more? I think that's where you were driving at a little bit. I was just curious about the data. Yeah. So that's why the data is a little bit harder for us to sort of share, because the license can be used for both the short-term and the long-term stay. So we look more at just how many licensed, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I have a question. So, is there someone here from the Child Welfare Advisory Council that was established in
Yes? Speaking.
Okay, so, when you're talking about what you just talked about, having families where children feel safe and all that, um, you pretty much explained what happens within our communities already, where the parents are not capable or they're not ready to parent, so then the grandparents step in or some other relative steps in and provides that safe environment. And so if we already have that system in place, how can this system support that without us having to jump through your hoops? Because we already got our hoops in order.
I so appreciate the question. It's fact. I myself have helped a brother out. I had his kids in my home for a week. He and his wife worked out some things, right? That is something that happens in family life. And we prefer, I want to just emphasize that we prefer that families be family. When they see adult family members with children struggling, they extend a hand and they help. That's the nuclear family at work, and that happens. There are, though, situations that regrettably we have to acknowledge. Children do become abused. The neglect of children does lead to very treacherous, dangerous situations. And a lot of times that happens when what I'll call that social capital, family, is either not available to them. Maybe they live in a faraway place. Maybe they've burnt that capital. They've burned bridges because of bad behaviors. There are times where the government does have to become involved. Law enforcement does get called, does come upon situations where abuse and neglect is happening and the family is not capable. And those are the times, and sadly that does happen. And I just want to emphasize that the word I used earlier was measure. When the child welfare system is engaged, we of course are always under the review of a court. There's a judge looking at these cases. There's a prosecutor that's presenting that information in front of the court. Decisions are made, orders are made. It's not just a child welfare agency out there running without safeguards, without internal controls. So I would just say, please, let family be family. Praise be to God. That's our preference. We do not want to trigger it, but we also cannot put our head in the sand and pretend like it doesn't happen. There are a lot of situations where children have been very, very badly hurt through abuse, sexual, physical, exposed to things that are very, very dangerous to their well-being, blunting their ability to thrive because of the neglect, the lack of parental supervision, the lack of safekeeping of these children. So that's, and I would just say that's a really difficult line to draw, because it's a bright line. Once you cross over it, it's a really difficult, but it's always drawn in the facts and circumstances of the case. So I hope that helps. Please, clarify.
That answers my question at all. We're aware of those situations.
Yeah.
And so I don't, yeah. My question is, we have a situation where we have extended family members taking care of children over long periods of time, very long periods of time. And so my question is, how can those families benefit from this kinship situation without having to be scrutinized and jumping through your hoops when it's already working for years as is? So how can this opportunity support what we already have in place?
Thank you for clarifying. I was thinking more on the legal side. You're speaking more on the fiscal or the benefit side. And so the short answer is that's exactly why we have Aaron and his team here today, because there is a lot of children that are in other homes without any involvement of the state. And a lot of times that leads to their qualification for TANF, for SNAP, for Medicaid. If you look at our economic assistance caseload, there's a lot of those situations where we'll call that a natural kinship situation, not a legal kinship situation. And those are things that were happening. Addiction, we're so grateful to have Three Rivers here. That's another part of DSS. Maybe the hardship that the parents are finding is addiction. You do not have to be child welfare involved to go get access. It's an income qualified mechanism at Three Rivers. And so that's where the safety net applies to all South Dakotans. And there are many benefits that do support families that are, to your point, we're family being family, but there's a lot of there is stress that comes to anybody bringing in another mouth into the home. That's fact. And so that's exactly why we brought our economic assistance team here, behavioral health outreach. Does that clarify a little bit better how family members can get access to help from our safety net while avoiding the child welfare system? I apologize, I understood your question initially from the legal, but yes, we do have other, again, everything in DSS that we do is income qualified. So just we say no to people a lot, but if your income level's at certain levels, we say yes a lot, all the time to people who meet those income levels who apply.
Okay, so that leads me to the next question. So there's that advisory council that was formed, and it says on here, DSS and members strive for collaboration. So can someone expand on that a little bit to see, I would like to know how much and what kind of input tribes put in. Because one of the things that I noticed on here, there's no mention of culture. Or there might be one mention here on page 7. But I'm thinking in terms of our culture, and if those things were brought up with this advisory board or council, and how that's been threaded into working, because we need these services, but like I said, we don't want to have to jump through your hoops to access and be validated in a situation that we're already involved in.
It's not very often you invoke President Roosevelt or President Johnson, but it's relevant because a lot of what DSS does is actually federally regulated. So I just want to be clear that, and I totally understand as a taxpayer, I feel like it's hoops. But there are reasons, right? There's a justice, who qualifies as a justice. That's some of the hoops. But to your question about House Bill 1232 erected the City Child Welfare Advisory Committee, and we've convened a number of times. Not all tribes have sent representatives despite their invitation. That's fine. We meet with whoever is there. And I assure you that we haven't had a meeting where we didn't talk about culturally relevant resources for youth that happen to be in state custody. And so it's on the topic. I would emphasize that forum is outstanding for boots on the ground personnel in places like Standing Rock, in places like Sisseton, in places like Pine Ridge, in places like Eagle Butte, where ideas are suggested. Hey, DSS, have you thought about this? Have you looked into that? And so that is the free exchange of good information that I think does happen on those times that we convene that advisory council. So I think the vision for that, Representative St. John, herself a member of Sisseton Wampanoag, that was her vision for that bill and that advisory council. I think it's being fulfilled as one of those members on the board, if I may. Perfectly, no. Advisory bodies always, it's hard to sort of keep momentum going from meeting to meeting and things like that, but I have to say we really benefited from some great ideas presented to us as an administering agency, DSS, in that body. Thank you for the question. It's very humbling to have those. Hopefully this will be for somebody smarter than me. I'll bring in the microphone if you don't mind, ma'am. I think it's easier for everybody to hear.
I just have a question. Is there an age limit to get licensed? Because I've had children I've raised 12 foster kids without SNAPs or welfare or anything. And one day this DSS worker from Eagle Butte came down to my house. I live in a feeding trailer, and those ones are not very big at all. And I bought some mattresses, and they laid on the floor, and she kind of got upset over it. And she said, I was too old to be taking care of kids. said they might have to remove the kids. But the kids, cried, they didn't want to go with that. And she said, I'll be back, and I was it, and I did come back, so. But is there an age limit to that?
I'm so grateful. I was first going to say, I'm sure you're asking about the age limit for somebody else, right? But at 25 years of age, if you are. But on a serious level, let's talk a little bit more about the home study phenomenon and then the age suitability, if you will.
As far as age requirement for foster care, it's 21 years. Oh, there's not an age limit for the oldest top. Part of the assessment when we work with you to complete the home study, we're going to ensure that you're able to meet the child's needs. So as long as somebody can meet those child's needs, there's no top age requirement to say you can no longer be a foster parent.
Any other questions? Well, I would like to have our partners that we are here today introduce themselves. I first want to start off with our partners at Lutheran Social Services, who, if you're interested in being a foster family, that's where we start. And so we have Kate here, and Kate is our inquiry coordinator. We have our program director, Rachel, who is oversees the program for foster care licensing. And we have Lynette. Lynette is our specialist who licenses families in this area. She's out of Selby is where her location is at. So she's not too far from here. And then I'll have our CPS staff, if you could introduce yourself, and then our PA and behavioral health teams. Because if you have any questions, we want to make sure you get connected to the right people.
Hi, good morning. Honored to be here with you all this morning. My name is Sarah Sheppet, and I am currently filling the role as the CPS Division Director for the State Child Protection Program. I have many years with the Child Protection Program in South Dakota. I have worked in child protection for approximately 30 years, beginning in the Rosebud area. Spent about 20 years working in the field, including the Eagle Butte Child Protection Office as well. I worked with some of you in the room from that role. And for the past 6 years, I have served as the Deputy Director for the State Child Protection Program. My new role just began last week, so this is my first official week as the Division Director, but I hope to get an opportunity to speak with many of you here today. And please come visit with myself and our staff if you have additional questions when the presentation is over. I'll go ahead and pass it to my colleagues. Good morning, Katie Larson. I am the Pregnancy Program Specialist with Child Protection Services. My role, I am the foster care manager for the state, so I help consult with our local offices on foster care decisions, permanency decisions. But today I'm here with some information about Kinship South Dakota, which is our Kinship Navigator program that is available to both formal and informal kinship families. So I invite you to come over and learn more about how Kinship South Dakota can support the kinship families here in your area.
Hello, my name is Eric Morris. I'm a regional manager for economic assistance. I work with offices in Eagle, Pierre, Mobridge, and McIntosh. I have Anthony Keller, who's a supervisor in Mobridge
session if you have any questions regarding child protection in Eagle View. Oh, and I have one more. Conrad, you want to raise your hand? Conrad's over there. Conrad is a family service specialist in both our Pier and Eagle View offices also.
Hi, I'm Tad Harnett from Three Rivers Mental Health in Lemon. Our service area stretches from Corson down to Ziebach and Dewey and all the way out to Mobridge. And so if once you've done going through the training and you have a foster child in your home, the process has just begun, trying to meet that child's needs and address the trauma that has gone on in their past. And you as a family still trying to address kind of your family dynamics and having a new family in your home. So we're here to kind of support you as you are trying to work your way through that and help you have another person you can talk to kind of go through any mental health or chemical dependency issues that you guys may have.
Thank you, Three Rivers. Again, mental illness, behavioral issues, addiction issues, that's an important part about the safety net that the department offers. Just a quick reset, we've had some additional guests come. Thank you for coming here. We need you was kind of my opening message to all of you. What we designed today was to give a brief overview of the training. We had a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Marlene. Marlis. I get nervous with the microphone in my hand. I apologize, Marlis. We also envisioned having booths. So the idea was to kind of have a fair for you to stop by, ask specific questions. Just to level set expectations. And by the way, as I'm talking, a couple of housekeeping things I want to speak to, but by all means, if you have additional questions, just raise your hand. You won't interrupt me. We did not, if those of you who came today were thinking you'd walk away with a license, that is not what the purpose of today is. The licensure process is a bit of a journey, and it does require, as was already stated, just reiterate for those who come in, there is a criminal background history that's examined. There's an examination of the home just to make sure it's safe. That is a critical part, but you can't do those here. So that is what was always meant, is this is to sort of give you momentum. For those of you who are contemplating, feel called, have this placed on your heart, is something I would like to do to help my relatives, to receive children into my home for a time. That was the purpose of today. And so through a brief presentation, which we'll be repeating this afternoon, and then also through people that are very, very knowledgeable, we call them in government subject matter experts. The goal would be for you to sort of understand a little bit more about what is entailed. How do you achieve that status? How can I help? Please hear my beg of you. We need your help. We cannot deliver a child welfare delivery system without kinship resources, without foster resources. It simply cannot be done. And so kinship and like foster resources that are here on Cheyenne River absolutely are needed. They are absolutely going to benefit relatives, other members of the tribe, and as has been well established here, the more proximal that you can place a child for a time outside of their home, the better off that child is going to be. And so that's exactly why we need you squarely, because there are children who have found to be not able to be safe kept in their home that are in custody under the purview of the court, and we are always looking for more resources. It's trying work, it's rewarding work, but having more is always beneficial to your brothers and sisters who choose to do this, because having it all the time as opposed to having it sporadically, it can be very helpful to homes. So that having more is always better. More resources than if we have kids in care is definitely a great situation, a great ambition for us to have. It is always what we're wishing for. So just a little more housekeeping, as I said, a little contextualization, particularly to our late arrivals here. So grateful for you to give the time. Any questions from those of you in the circle or around the peripheral here. Again, some of them might be very specific. I would urge you to ask them. And if we don't have our systems with us, we don't have our technology to look into our databases, I assure you, we are prepared with notepads to get a phone number and to follow up with you with specific questions you have in specific cases. Yes?
I just have a question. Are there resources available to assist kinship providers that late at night get a relative in care and DSS wants to place them? Are there resources available and what kind of services would come to them?
There are. Let me just emphasize and brag upon, you have a worker. And we have social workers in this space because you can never fully anticipate what are those needs in those late night emergency placements. And that worker is there to work collaboratively with the placement resource, with the kinship home, identify what are the needs. Now, we don't have a 7-Eleven in every corner in this part of the world, as we all know. We all understand the circumstances, distances. But we go to great lengths to say, it's another bed. Let's see what we can do. Occasionally find, I don't have a washing machine. You have 5 kids now coming into my home. They make dirty laundry. We look into ways to do that. There's a process that we go through that. It doesn't happen just on a snap of a finger at that 10 o'clock at night. But that is something that our workers are trained to do, to know the resources and troubleshoot those situations. So we give you a person, somebody dedicated and committed to our mission, understanding of what our meets and bounds are of those resources, and then we promise you that they are going to work with you if this placement comes to your home. I hope that helps. I know that's a lot of words to say nothing, because you can't answer that specifically until we know exact need, exact moment in time, that kind of stuff. We are here to troubleshoot as a church. Do you want to fire me now, or is that am I resonating with you? Okay.
Well, actually, I kind of understand some
Yeah.
of it. I used to work in the
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for your service.
I just want to make people aware of that.
The $20 for the loaded question. Thank you. I love it. Second, Madam.
What qualifies you to be a kinship caregiver?
Was where you're going to ask.
What relationship do you have to have with that family?
That is one of the best questions asked today, if I may. And the reason why is because South Dakota has taken a very liberal interpretation of that. If there's a connection of some sort, we consider that kinship. We do not say, give me your DNA test, let's trace the lineage, and let's prove that in fact there's a bloodline connection. We do not do that. We emphasize there's a relationship of some sort, whether it's blood or not, and we say that's kin in South Dakota. Another word that you might hear is fictive kin. So just to keep bloodlines a little like they're a neighbor down the street, and they've known the child all along. That would be if they're not in any way related, but that would be sort of like an auntie to that child. We would consider that kinship placement. That's any of my colleagues who know a lot more about this stuff than me, you clean up my mess. We're pretty good with that. Katie, you want to add one? You okay with that? Yeah. I would just say we're Cheyenne, and I would say I'm very appreciative to the cultural questions. A relative is a relative. There's an intentionality among tribal members to refer to their brothers and sisters as relatives. And so we take that exact same disposition in state licensure requirements. Probably a better way to answer your question. I hope that helps.
It does, because if they don't put in for one of these programs and say you take your neighbor's kid down the street,
Right.
you're not going to qualify for getting any assistance through the state should you not in the street.
Right. Right. So, we have how when it gets really in the weeds, and I'm trying to keep this, follow up on a question on that. If you don't choose to get licensure, we can still support you for kin. But you ever been to Kohl's, the department store?
Yeah.
You know how they always try to upsell you with a credit card? I'm going to upsell you for just a second. Bear with me. We
say in the whole licensure is foster's better than kin because you as a resource are better prepared. I really over embellished your question. I'm sorry. Yeah. Right. Right. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I do know that we do have our relatives, they are at home. I should have asked you today. Okay. Sorry, I apologize. And that is in the plate, so if you are a relative that way, then you would be considered. That, yeah, it's strictly kin. You can still take placement until that would be assistance. I guess that's a question for the DSS people.
Katie, you want to put a bow on that? Katie Larson from our central office.
I'll try and answer. So if you're talking about an informal family that is not involved with the child welfare system, then obviously they can still participate in some services through economic assistance, through income-based services like SNAP, things like that. If you're talking about families that decide not to go through or are unable to go through the licensing process but are formally working with child welfare, there are still assistance available to that family through child protection services through the state. If they don't meet the relationship requirements for TANF, we're able to help them with financial assistance in other ways. We're able to connect them with community support and resources. For example, in this area, so Tara Child and Family Services does support both can working with child welfare or not working with child welfare with clothing, different, maybe it's beds or different needs like that. And there's other just nonprofit or community resources we can connect to. And if we can't find those community resources, we make sure to help them through child protection services if they are working with us. So did that kind of answer your question? Yeah, I mean, we do gas vouchers, grocery vouchers, clothing vouchers, it could be incidental assistance. If they're working with child welfare and they're not able to receive that licensure and receive that monthly subsidy payment, then yes, the assistance would continue. So if yeah, so it kind of depends. Again, it depends on the case. If a child does then leave our care, for example, and goes into a guardianship, then they are eligible to negotiate a guardianship subsidy through the state. So that assistance can continue whether they're licensed or not. Our guardianship program does not require the family to be licensed, and so they're able to work with their caseworker towards permanency, become the legal guardian, and still continue to get assistance. They can still apply for assistance through, again, economic assistance, Kinship, South Dakota. We work with both families that are formally working with child welfare or not. We help connect them to those community supports and resources, just in the same way. It wouldn't be the exact same support that maybe
behavioral health resources would still be available to them if they're not working with child welfare.
Thank you, Katie. Regional Manager Hitzhopper, do you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. How about Mr. Forbes? Aaron, do you have anything else, Regional Manager for EA? Can you verify that you're helping customers every day at your field office? Right? We have quite a few on SNAP, we have quite a few on TANF, we have LEAP, electrification and heating assistance. Of course, Medicaid is our largest program. We have a lot of Medicaid enrollees here, and that's all gone through Aaron's team. Grateful for that. I didn't quite catch the question, ma'am. This is one of the hardest things, and just a side note about my personal work history, I was very involved in starting the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House in Sioux Falls. And I can verify that I've encountered relatives from Cheyenne River at the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. Government provides infrastructure. So what do we mean by that? It means that we'll give you food assistance, we'll give you medical assistance, we'll build your roads, we'll create Right. And I feel your pain. My point is that it's always been a church and state proposition. It's always been a tribe and state. Government does not create help in every way. There are limits. In our state, one of the most obvious ones is we do a lot of federal help with housing, but that's usually the biggest barrier, transportation. Sure, IDs, yeah. Yeah. There are ways to get IDs, but it is hard. I want to emphasize that. Any other questions? So why don't I put a bow on today with again, reinforcing our gratitude that those who've chosen to come here and give us some of your time to hear a little bit more. Check this out, if you will. Please hear the invitation to help us. We need it. Please also hear the invitation to stop by and have specific questions to our staff. They are very passionate at what they do. They're very knowledgeable in what they do. And so I would encourage you to ask those questions. You know, sometimes it's easier to do it on the sidebar. So God bless you all. Thank you very much for being here.